Okay, would you have started this with a jigsaw or just to finish it?
No, I would have started it. Go ahead whenever you're ready to start it. All right, so this could be done with a 4-inch hole saw, or it can be done with a jigsaw. If you're gonna do it with a jigsaw, then you use a 4-inch pot and set it on top, draw you a circle, drill a hole so that the jigsaw blade will go into it, and then you can cut around and cut your hole. Then you can use some sandpaper to smooth that out enough to where the 4-inch pot will fit down inside. You want to come down on the side away from the seam and offset. So there's the seam. You want to get off the seam. This hole is for the overflow. And the overflow can be used for one of two things, either just overflowing out onto the ground or overflowing into another barrel. So what you're going to do is you're going to drill a 2 3/8 hole. The 2 3/8 hole is for a fitting, and your fitting may differ, but it needs to be about a 2-inch fitting, 2+ inch fitting. You're going to measure that diameter and determine what size hole you're going to use. You can either use a hole saw or your jigsaw to drill this hole. So we drill the hole again off the seam. You don't want to drill your holes on the seam because if the water freezes, it'll split and you create a weak point if you're drilling on the seam. So we're going to come about 2 inches down away from the top, and the top being this bottom seam. We're going to drill a 2 3/8 inch hole. Now, you can do that with a hole saw, or you can do it with a jigsaw, however you want to do it. Then, the fitting will fit right in. And you want to measure that fitting to make sure it's the same size as your hole saw before you drill it in. We can also put silicone around here just to hold it in place. It's not to create a seal, it's just to hold it in place. A little bit of silicone right in there and it'll sit right there. So, bulkhead, you have a bulkhead here. It's got an inner diameter and thread for 3/4 of an inch. This is your faucet. It's got a 3/4 inch thread, which will thread into this.
And what's it called?
This is the faucet and a bulkhead. The black piece is the bulkhead. That will seal the bottom hole that we're about to drill. This outside diameter varies. It depends on what you buy. So it could be 1 3/4 inches, it could be 1 inch. It varies on whatever you decide to buy. So you need to take a measurement of that outside diameter to determine what size hole saw you need to use or what size hole to cut out with a jigsaw. There's a gasket that comes with these. This needs to go on the inside. And we'll get into how to install this down on the bottom. We have a special tool to install it on the bottom, but I'll show you how to do it by hand and where to, and it's a little bit tricky and it takes a little bit of jiggling around, but we'll get it done. The other thing I want to point out is we have the overflow offset to the front. So the drain will go down here on the bottom, about 3 or 4 inches off the bottom. This offset, depending upon what you want to do, can be offset to the front or to the back, as long as you're away from that seam. As long as you're away from this seam, you can offset it either way, whichever you prefer. So the drain hole on the bottom needs to be offset about 3 or 4 inches off the bottom, in line with the 4-inch hole that we drilled at the top. So if you draw an imaginary line, you can do this with you can draw the line straight. It's not particular, but just to make it look nice, you want to keep it in line. So we'll drill that hole. And there's your drain hole. So to install this bulkhead, we have a special tool. You can use this tool. It's a little piece of pipe with a cork inside and a wire. But not everybody has this because they're not building a bunch of barrels. So the other option is to just drop this down in there and fish it out of the bottom. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to drop it in here, or I can reach down and push it through the hole. If the barrel's too big, you can just drop it in there and kind of wiggle it around until you can fish it out. And then you attach the bulkhead. Again, the gasket is on the inside. And there may be 2 gaskets, so you would put one on the inside, one on the outside. But if you only have one, you want the gasket on the inside. You get that threaded in there. It takes a little work. And hand tight is good on this stuff. Good hand tight snug is good. You don't have to use pliers or anything. We're just trying to keep water from pouring out. It may leak out, and if it does, you can tighten it up.
Would you use silicone on this, or not necessary?
I wouldn't use silicone. It's not necessary because there's a gasket there, so that's just hand tight. And then our faucet on the bottom. You can put Teflon tape around this. That's not necessary because this is a polyethylene and to a metal, and so that should create a good seal. But if you do want to put some Teflon tape around there, that's perfectly fine. Make sure it's threaded in straight. Sometimes these plastic fittings get cross threaded. You want to make sure it's threaded in straight and give it a good twist and get it straight. And there you go, the bottom's in there. Now the last piece of this is where is the top. We're going to take 2 4-inch pots. So one just sits right in there. The other one has a screen, has a piece of screen, and it goes in the first pot, and just slide it down in there. Then another cheap old pot goes in the top, and then we're going to sprinkle some gravel into this last pot. Some pea gravel, about a cup, maybe a cup and a half.
And what's the gravel for?
The gravel just acts as a filter bed, just to kind of keep big particulate from going through. So you've got the gravel acting as a big filter and the screen acting as a smaller filter. This will help keep mosquitoes and bugs and things from getting in here. That doesn't mean you shouldn't maybe drop a mosquito cube down in here to prevent mosquitoes growing in here. But the blue barrels are definitely going to help prevent UV and algae buildup. I would suggest you get this elevated. That way you have access to hook a hose up here and then drain off to wherever you want to drain it, in your garden, in your flower bed, whatever.
And would you want to use a white one or a clear one?
If you use a white one, you'll have algae buildup because sunlight is getting inside. You can use a white one. You may prefer to paint it. So the big reason for not using white is to prevent algae buildup. You can paint it with exterior paint, something that will be good and adhere to plastic is what you need to look for. You can even paint the blue ones so that they are hidden or whatever. You can paint these blue ones, but painting the white ones is best so that you don't have a lot of algae growth inside.